Hello and welcome to the Bad Bitch podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Julia.
And we are bad bitches together.
I love to hear it.
And we are so excited to welcome you to this episode. Before we get started, we want to mention this week's sponsor. We are sponsored by the amazing Azara Therapies here in Benenden, Kent. And it's run by the fantastic Lisa Dawson, who is a total bad bitch.
She really is.
And her daughter Sophie. And they do therapeutic facials that are really good for skin damage, sun damage, anti-aging, rosacea. They get amazing results. And they use Environ skincare, which is a fantastic brand. Lisa's also a specialist in chronic pain management and pain massage. And when I shredded my ankle a couple of years ago, falling down a flight of stairs, she was so helpful in helping me recover from that. So we're massive fans. And we're such fans, and we love Lisa so much that we're going to collaborate with her. And in the spring this year, we're going to do a Bad Bitch Reset in person.
So buzzing for that.
So exciting, because we've run the Bad Bitch Reset twice already online. It's a 6-week program. We absolutely love doing it, but we think there's just so much power in bringing women together. 100%. So we're going to do it. It won't be six weeks. Lisa's listening to this panicking. It's not 6 weeks at Lisa's place. We're just going to do a half day when the weather's improved, and it's going to be giving people that reset, that time for themselves, and they're going to leave feeling energized and confident. But we're going to share more about that later on.
And just one point is just to make as well is like Lisa's place is absolutely fabulous and perfect for like resetting and just taking a breath, taking a beat, being around some amazing women and just having that full-on reset and moving forward.
We are beyond excited.
Yes.
We actually seem quite calm, but we're not.
Maybe we should just like run it and then just attend ourselves and find someone else to do it. Yes.
Yeah, but this is the thing. As a coach, I don't know, do you find this as well, that I'm coaching people, but I also need the thing I'm coaching. Yeah. Like, we need it from somebody else.
100%.
So we love running the Bad Bitch Reset. We love running it, and we love helping the women on it. And every time we run it, we get something from it, and it helps us. That's the magic of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's when we put on these workshops, whether it's the online course or the day event, it's like the starting point for us before we create that amazing experience is, would we attend this? Is this something we would invest in? What would we gain for it? Because that's just it's a really authentic place to start, and it just makes sense because, you know, if you're going to see the value in it, then your clients, you're going to show up, you're going to give your best, and your clients are going to love it too.
Totally. And it's actually really connected to today's theme for the podcast, but I'm going to save that because first of all, we're just going to check in how our week's been. And also, you know, you're just going to keep me up to date on pop culture because, as we've established, I know nothing basically. So first of all, how are you? What's been going on?
I'm really good. I've been seeing lots of like clients this week, and just really everywhere I go, it's just really lovely to have real conversations with real people, find out what's going on in their lives, and just see how I can support those changes, because people are going through a difficult time. I don't know if you're finding that with your clients. Especially as now we've gone into the year of the horse, and we've kind of like stepped away. We've had Chinese New Year, stepped into the year of the horse, shed all of that like drama and like that transition from the year of the snake, and there's been a definite shift, and people are getting more ready to go. But it's more like we're getting ready to go and carry sort of like graceful momentum that we can build upon, like a horse. Like if you look at the way a horse sort of gallops on the beach, that it's not frenetic, it's just like poetry in motion is the best way to put it. And I find that a lot of clients are like starting to get ready and they want to get into that space.
Well, that is wonderful that they do. And if you're not into astrology, the year of the horse is about, you know, like being like a horse, like running forwards. But one thing to be mindful of is running in the right direction.
For sure.
Because you can also run forwards in the wrong direction in a year of the horse. Mm-hmm. But because we did our last episode of goal setting, come back to that. Really get clear on your goals at this time of the year. And then you'll make sure you're running in the right direction. That's the first thing I'd say. You know what I've been talking to my clients a lot about this week? It's so British, but the weather.
Yeah.
Because it's been the rain that never ends, like 50 days straight of rain. And there was an article in the press last week saying that actually someone had studied the impact it had on our mental health. And I thought this was really interesting because what they were saying was that when the weather's this bad for this long and it's so consistently bad and there's no sign of it improving, that it makes people feel less content with every other aspect of their life.
For sure.
And so you might be feeling not very happy with your job or your relationship, And it could just be the weather. And it's not just SAD, which obviously is a real thing that people get this time of year, but it's just the relentless nature and not seeing an improvement. So if you're struggling, I think this is not the week to quit your job or get divorced. I think like just hold off till hold off until the weather improves, because it made so much sense. So I was kind of laughing with my clients, but also a lot of clients have been just feeling like the start of this year is dragging. So we need the year of the horse, but we just also need some sunshine.
For sure, 100%, because sunshine just makes everything so much better. I feel there's a lot of value, because you find like a lot of entrepreneurs will live in like those eternal sunshine states, like whether that is like California or Dubai or a places like that, and it's so important. It does genuinely lift everyone's mood and helps you feel like you're more like ready to go in the direction of your authentic creative potential.
I love living in this country, but if I could do January to March in the sunshine, I think that would be the way to go. So
I'm like November until April.
No, I love Christmas.
Christmas is great.
So I love the run up to Christmas. So I'd love to be here.
Maybe I'll come back for 3 weeks at Christmas time.
We'll figure it out.
And then go again. Yeah.
We'll figure it out. So this week I went to Frankfurt. Yes. The weather wasn't any better. When I got there, I asked the concierge what the weather was like, and he said it's London weather. So they're using our weather as a benchmark for bad weather, which is positive. It was a really fun trip. There were lots of funny things that happened. First of all, the flight to Frankfurt's only an hour. The guy sat behind me got completely shit-faced. He chatted up.
Impressive.
He chatted up the air stewardess, and she gave him 3 G&Ts, and I don't know that they were singles. And by the end of this flight, this is what the guy was like as we left the flight. He literally said to this air stewardess, "This is the best flight I've ever been on." And he was, you know when people are really drunk and loved up, and he was telling all the cabin crew how wonderful they were. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it. It was a really short flight. Anyway, he was going to a conference the next day. I thought, wow, I mean...
Your conference?
Not my conference, but I didn't know what state he was going to turn up in. I thought, I hope you're not in my conference. But he mentioned his industry and it was different. So I was there to speak on the topic of resilience for a big company, and they brought all their managers together to Frankfurt for an offsite. And I was really honoured to be asked to come and deliver the keynote. So that was wonderful. I got there. I had a very intimate frisking at the airport, I will say. You know,
do tell.
We get frisked at the airport. I mean, I don't know if everyone does, but I often do. And I just don't think anyone's just literally put both their hands on my butt cheeks in that way. It was very familiar.
Actual cheeks.
Yeah, just literally.
What does she think's hidden between the material and your butt cheek?
I don't know, but she did it like very specifically, like they'd done the body scan.
Yeah.
I don't know, there wasn't any metal in my clothing, but
metal butt cheek implants?
Absolutely not. No.
Are we going to get a world exclusive?
There's nothing there. So I was just really surprised by it. But I mean, I wouldn't say it was unenjoyable. It was just really surprising. It was I would say it was thorough, very thorough. I mean, I love that they take their work seriously, but I just don't know what security risk my posterior threatens anyone with. Anyway, so that was the experience. And then I get there, and one of the great things about my job, because I go and talk on well-being and resilience, is it does make me practice it more.
Love that.
Because I would feel like a total fraud to go and stand up and talk about resilience for 2 hours if I didn't practice it myself. So I made sure I got there the night before, so I wouldn't be stressed about travel the next day, had a good night's sleep, worked out, had a high protein, high fat breakfast so that I'm on a really even keel, and was really prepared. I was really prepared. I always am for these things. But what I hadn't factored in and no one else had was that the aircon in the room I was presenting in was broken.
Okay.
And so this is the afternoon shift. I'm the last speaker of the day. They've spent the whole rest of the day having very technical conversations. A lot of them have flown in that morning, so they're probably a bit tired.
Yeah.
So it's already what we call the graveyard shift. The room, actually, we looked at the thermostat, it got to 24 degrees. It was the hottest talk I've ever given in my life. So first of all, I always call out if there's a problem. We made a joke about it. But I had to work really hard. I got people moving, I got people up and talking to each other. At one point, I just told everyone to take a break and go outside to breathe, which they did desperately, because there's not enough oxygen in those rooms anyway.
No.
But when it's that hot, people were wilting. But the people there were fantastic, and they really threw themselves into the topic. They didn't tune out and just have a nap at the back. We had a great session, and it was 2 hours, but we covered a lot. And we covered particularly in the world of work, the 3 levels of resilience that are really important. The first one is individual resilience, that you need to take care of your well-being and resilience and build that mental resilience as well.
Yeah.
Because the world of work is changing, it's challenging, it's increasingly challenging, I think, at the moment. And so you have to take responsibility for your own resilience to start with. But then they're all leaders. So then we talked about the impact managers can have on the resilience of their teams, which is huge. You can both build really powerful, confident teams. You can also be a bad manager that crushes everyone's spirits and works them into the ground. So we had some great conversations about that. And then the last thing we talked about was organisational resilience. What makes organisations more resilient? We talked about some turnaround stories where organisations have failed and come back. So it was a really great conversation. It was a really great trip. As I said, a little bit random in places, but the actual keynote went really well. I've had loads of great feedback. And I just have to say, I absolutely love my job. I love that I get to do that. I get such nice messages afterwards of people saying, oh, that really made me think about that differently, or think about how to prioritise myself. So
that's great.
A great trip, despite the London weather and the very amusing travel as well.
I love that. Mm.
So while I was off doing that, what was happening in the world of pop culture?
Well, it's been, obviously we've had the Wuthering Heights, the film has now come out now and people have had a chance to see it, but we're going to talk about that next week just to make sure that the people that want to see it have had that chance to catch up on it. But the things that we've had drop this week, which are quite exciting, is we've had Ryan Murphy's Love Story. It was originally called American Love Story, but they changed the title, whether they're looking to expand that series.
Sorry, I don't know who Ryan Murphy is or what Love Story
Ryan
is.
Murphy is like he did American Horror Story. He's done
either.
some like quite highly stylized, quite iconic is a great word.
Oh, is he a director?
He's like a producer. He will produce he'll produce these different series, and now he's turned his hand to perhaps America's most famous love story, which is that of JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette.
Oh, wow.
So this is the topic that he has chosen to focus on, and obviously, if you, I would say, are of that era, it's a very iconic love story, and the way that they've actually delivered it, obviously they have to be very careful because of the Kennedy family. There's a lot of there's not enough time to talk about the shit that's gone down in that family, in that family history, but it's like they've had to treat it in quite a sensitive way. And so the TV series, we've had I think 4 episodes dropped now. They dropped 3 initially. They've just had the 4th one, and then they're spreading out. I think it's like 8-part series, leading from their initial meeting all the way up until obviously their tragic accident, which ended both their lives. So that's not a spoiler alert, because
I mean, everyone should. Even I know that I know how the story ends.
Yeah.
This is dramatised. There are actors playing them.
Yes, exactly.
Is it romanticised?
It's I think from as an observer point of view, and just it's very nostalgic for that particular time of that era of New York in the early 90s.
Amazing.
Like the rise of the changes that were going on at Calvin Klein, because Caroline Bessette worked for Calvin Klein, and obviously they've taken artistic license in terms of that. She perhaps had more of a hand in discovering Kate Moss, and there's different bits that they've taken artistic license with, shall I say. And very interestingly, at the beginning, there's quite a strong disclaimer at the beginning of each episode that basically says something along the lines of, obviously events have been dramatised, but any sort of resemblance to the characters are kind of based on more fiction, which is interesting when I think you're doing basically a biographic drama.
But I think they have to do that now, especially when they're talking about such a controversial family, and it's really, I obviously have never heard of this, but it's really interesting how that family is both absolutely romanticised, but then can also be seen through a really negative lens, and then there's a lot of tragedy.
Exactly.
It's a very layered story wrapped up with what sounds like probably quite a nice aesthetic.
It is a lovely aesthetic. It's obviously that, as I said, that 90s New York. It's just of a time where a lot of people will hark back to that. But it's just some interesting moments that when I've watched it, that even if they didn't take place, it's a really interesting They communicate really interesting thoughts for the viewer to think about. There's a line where John F. Kennedy Jr. They've done an amazing job of casting the actor. He's a very unknown actor that they've just put in the role, and I think they did actually struggle to cast him to start off with, but in my opinion, they've done a superb pick. And there's a line he delivers where Caroline Bessette is having a conversation with him about his life, and he's very like, she's like, what's your earliest memory? And he says, this is like ad-libbing it, but it's like, I've seen so much of my life through like the press, and I've seen it documented so much, I'm not sure what is my memory or what I've seen of my life fed back to me. I thought that was really interesting and a really poignant point to put in, that people like, especially, I know we joke all the time about like Nepo babies and people who've grown up in the spotlight, but if you have always been used to that, like the press are always present in your life, people are always after like to be close to you because you're just like the golden child, it must get you won't know what is your life experience and what has been like told to you about your life and other people's perception of it.
It's so distorted, but I actually think that's true for everybody. I think I don't know if this would be healthy, it might actually not be, but it would be very interesting if you could go back and watch almost like a video montage of your childhood, versus what you actually remember, because nobody remembers things accurately.
100%. Absolutely. I have clients that come to me and it's like they have like, say they've had like, it's something like the birth of their child. One person will be like, and they will both die on this hill. They were like, that actually happened. That definitely didn't happen, or you did this, and they're both so convinced. And I'm like, why do we rely on eyewitness testimony in court? Oh my God, yes. Because it's literally like we will interpret our interpretation of events is what we believe, like fully, and you are fully convinced, but actually that's not always the case of what happened. And so much of it is also your mindset. Say it rarely would happen with you and I because we have such positive conversations, but you might talk to a colleague at work and you might leave that conversation saying, oh, that conversation went really well. And they might leave that conversation saying, oh, that's gone really badly, we don't get on. And that's maybe because of all the past experiences that have led up to that moment that change your perception of it. And so I do think one of the lessons in that is check your perspectives. Yes. Remember that your perspective isn't the right one, it isn't the only one. And also it is good to be aware that we really can have false memory, so just don't rely on it too much. Exactly. And the one final thing, I would definitely like, if you like a little bit of nostalgia and you just like a beautiful aesthetic, definitely watch this, and the soundtrack absolutely slaps. It's amazing. I mean, the 90s was the best. Yes. I first went to New York in the 90s and had an amazing time, and 90s fashion is back, which I'm very happy about. Yes. So I think we're all quite nostalgic about the 90s. Definitely. Is there something else you want to talk about? Before we just go, do you know something that also blew my mind about this? Because it's like, even though like I completely forgot about it, it's like that moment Caroline Bessette goes into her desk at Calvin Klein and she literally has a notepad and paper and a phone. Oh, I love that. I wish we were still in those days. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that there was a time before we had like the computer at our desk and our keyboard and our mouse, and just sit down and just this clear surface, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Don't you wish we were still like that in lots of ways? For sometimes, yeah, for sure, there's definitely good points which I wish we could back capture. I would do the 90s again. Just do that decade, just go back and do it. It was so much fun. But talking about like decades that were super fun, we'll move on to the next bit of pop culture, which is quite exciting. So we had obviously last year the beginning of last year, the first season of Jilly Cooper's Rivals, which was just a really fun trip around the set in the 80s in the Cotswolds. Well, I saw it, but only because you campaigned. You lobbied hard until I watched it, and then I loved it. So I appreciate you for doing that. Absolutely loved it. But yes, the absolutely crazy world of journalism in the 80s, it does make it look like it was a hell of a lot of fun, though. I know, right? It really does look insanely fun. And again, I really feel like, not maybe necessarily so much with a love story, but definitely in Rivals, because it's kind of like low stakes, but it's fun, there's drama, but it's very visually pleasing. We do need, especially if we're in the thick of like the relentless rain that just keeps going on, or we're not sure, we do need that time out to just like have that immersive tune out time, which is just lovely, you know. Do you think there's a reason for it though? Because it felt like
10 years ago, a lot of series were fantasy, things like Game of Thrones, which I have to confess I also haven't seen.
Neither have I.
I'm not really into kind of fantasy shows, but it felt like there was a lot about wizards and fantasies. And then obviously there was a massive vampire era that happened. Do you think there's something about what's happening now and maybe people not being happy with how things are in the world that is making people crave nostalgia, crave the past, and then they're making more TV shows about it?
I think so, for sure. And also going back to what we said about like how it would be interesting to go back and look at your childhood to check what you remember actually did happen. You will tend to look back to your past with parts of it, not excluding like difficult times, but you will look back in a nostalgic, rose-tinted way. That's just how we operate as humans, and you'll think that it was a better time when actually, if you like self-check yourself, sometimes you can be like, actually, it was a really difficult time, you know. But in terms of that nostalgic element, your brain will remember the fun parts, and it will pull that forward into today's sort of like culture, or your brain, and it will pull it forward into like making it a part of your life now.
Well, and that helps us survive, because
really
if we were constantly replaying the bad things that happened to us, like none of us would get out of bed.
100%.
So I think it's quite nice I choose to be selective and look back at the happy stuff.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, I love the 90s. The early 2000s was so fun in terms of, I was in the city of London, it was buzzing, the fashion, the energy, the economy. It felt like a real boom time. So I do look back on that super nostalgically. But if I think about from a well-being perspective, I was probably the most anxious I've ever been in my life. But when I look back on it, I just see all the fun parties and the kind of fast living.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah, our brains are very intriguing. But yes,
they are.
So the Rivals trailer is coming back. So we've had like we've seen that David Tennant is there, with his wonderful character.
Oh, wait, doesn't he get killed at the end of the first series?
Well, we don't know if he gets killed,
but he's back.
But it's not. Let's
assume he's back.
Yeah, exactly. Unless they're doing like some kind of like resurrection story or something like that. But he is definitely in the trailer, so it's not really the people that's in season 1. He is straight in the season 2 trailer, so it's not really a spoiler. There is all the main characters are back, and it just looks like another riot. Of fun. I don't think there's any way to describe it, and that's coming out in May. So very excited for that. We're going to have a watch party.
We'll have a watch party, and then we'll debrief on the pod.
Yes.
So shall we get stuck in with today's topic?
Let's do that.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about being self-first, and we'll explain what a self-first approach is. Just before we do that, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's already messaged us.
Yes.
We've had so many nice messages about our first episode, and we haven't even advertised it yet. No. I haven't even put it on my LinkedIn.
Neither have I. All my socials.
But we've had so many great messages. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much to everyone who messages, and for the feedback, because we want to make this better. And we actually had a male listener message us, and we want to say everybody is welcome to the Bad Bitch party that we're having here.
100%.
But obviously, it is, you know, what we do with the Bad Bitch Reset is aimed at women. And on the Bad Bitch Reset, one of the ideas we introduced very early is the idea of taking a self-first approach.
Yeah.
And the reason I've coined this kind of phrase self-first is because often women think they have a choice between being selfless, where they're taking care of everybody in their orbit, or selfish. And it feels like a really binary choice, and neither of those things are healthy.
No.
Today we're going to get into why women often drop into being selfless almost by default. But then you might swing the other way and think, well, I just have to be really selfish. And actually, that's not that healthy, and it's not authentic for a lot of women too. The idea of the self-first approach is that you need to take care of yourself first. And by that, we mean your physical needs, your emotional needs, your mental well-being. You need to prioritize those things. And when you prioritize those things and what you need, you will then be in a really great place to be there for other people in your life.
Yep.
And that, whether that's how you show up at work, how you are a partner or a parent or a friend. But if you're constantly selfless and you're taking care of everyone around you and waiting for someone to prioritize you, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to be waiting a long time, because it's very rare that that's going to happen. But also, it's not very self-responsible, actually. To be really self-responsible, you have to take care of your own well-being. So today we're going to explore really what it means to take a self-first approach, but also I thought we'd start a bit with why particularly women don't tend to prioritise themselves.
I think as well, it comes back to what you said about when you were delivering like the resilience in your workshop. It's that building that self first, like that resilience of self first. It just really helps you, because there's no point showing up for other people if you're feeling very what's the word I'm looking for, like not resilient, or clearly, if you're feeling reticent about it, you know, and because it won't feel good to you or the other person, because they'll pick up on that. And if you just end up depleting yourself, you just end up in a really bad place where you can't even serve yourself, never mind other people. So it is really important to just sort of like, well, what we're going to get into today in terms of like just building and yourself why can't I say that? Self first approach. Yeah. There we go. When you're building that self first approach, how if you find you've been constantly like over delivering for other people, you're running around after them all the time, to find your way back, it's about like doing it in small steps, not just being like, it's now only me.
Well, and that's where we can see the pendulum swing. So I have a friend who did something quite remarkable. She was really a selfless person, and she took care of a lot of people, and she would also, her and her husband they were very active in their local church, and they would have local people who were in need come and live with them. They were running like a free bed and breakfast with people. Amazing. But she was doing so much of the practical work around the house, and she kept saying to her husband over and over again, please, can you do a bit more of your share, and he didn't to the point that she went on strike.
Wow.
And she went on strike for a whole month.
Yeah.
For a whole month, she didn't do anything. She didn't cook for anyone else. And this was also including their guests, who were almost treating her like she was running this free hotel. She just stopped for everybody. And that's the extreme. But sometimes we get to that point where you just go to the extreme. And in that case, it actually worked, because they realised how much she did. It's like they had completely taken it for granted until she completely stopped. But our self-first approach is maybe more gradual than that. So maybe you don't get to the point that you're so upset that you basically refuse to lift a finger and do a single thing. I mean, I think it's genius that she did that, but that's also quite a hard road to take, because you might instinctively want to take care of people.
100%. Yes, because it's our natural instinct, like that we exist as a tribal people. We exist in a tribe. We want to collaborate, and definitely if we think back to like our primitive brain, if we are not conforming and not sort of operating as a tribe, it's seen as like death. Our primitive brain is like, we're going to die, and it operates on such a like low, like subconscious, like sneaky almost basis. It was really interesting. I was at traffic lights this week, and it's like three. I'm the first in the queue. There's 2 lanes next to me. The lights go green, and I'm like, I start to move off, but no one else in the other 2 lanes move. So at that point, I'm like, am I supposed to be moving?
Yeah, you panic.
Yeah, exactly. And that is how deeply ingrained that not wanting to be excluded from the tribe is. It's like, primitive brain is like, are we going? But it's green, but we shouldn't be going because no one else is going. And it's very like that. Don't underestimate how like ingrained and how strong and magnetic that pull is to want to sort of serve and operate as a community. So like just if you're trying to just unwind that behaviour and start putting yourself first, the gentle way is a really good way.
Well, we'll come on to how we do it in a minute, because I want to visit that a bit further about the tribe, because the traditional setup was that women worked together in the tribe, and men would go out and hunt.
We were talking about this earlier, about how we should move in together and how we should just live together.
Oh, we should live together.
Women in a commune, I feel like shit would be done and life would be good.
I mean, 2 of the best periods of my life were living with my 2 best friends, one after the other. And there is something wonderful about women spending time together and being in a group. So, and the reason it can feel so wonderful is it's what we've evolved to do. And it's not that long ago that we were doing it. So our brain hasn't shifted. No. There are still lots of places in the world where women live much more together, and there's a lot more multi-generational living. The way we live now, particularly in a kind of standard setup of a male-female partnership, is actually super unnatural, just to be clear. So, and wonderful, but not natural. So the natural setup was that women would be in a big group, and they would self-organise between them, and they'd be responsible for a lot of things like keeping the fire going, gathering, not hunting, but gathering berries and gathering food. They would communally take care of the children, which I think is something we've lost, and it's really hard on young mothers to have young children unless you have a very strong community around you.
Definitely.
Because you would have a baby and then 5 women would help you raise that baby, including some much older women. In fact, a lot of women didn't even nurse their own children. So everything was a group effort. And there's lots of wonderful things about that. But one of the ways it works is that to work in a tribe like that, everybody has to get on.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get on, you can't be affording to have blow-ups all over the place. This isn't like Real Housewives of the tribe. So everyone has to get on, and if you get kicked out, it's like you said, it's death. So there are a couple of things at play there. One of them is that the women got very good at spotting what needed to be done, or spotting if there was a problem or if someone was unhappy and fixing it proactively. They're not waiting for someone to come and say, here's a problem, they're fixing it. Especially when it comes to raising young children, they can't speak. So women also were very good at just telling what somebody needs without them expressing it.
Yeah.
And so we see that now when we see women who are monitoring their family very closely. If the children are upset, they're stepping in to fix that. If their partner's in a mood, they're trying to sort it out. So we're kind of programmed to see the problems that might happen in relationships and try and fix them. But then also practically, just to get everything done, they would notice when something needed doing and they would just do it. So again, I've definitely had friends complain where they say, how does my male partner not see the mess?
Yeah.
They just don't see the mess, and I just see the mess and I start cleaning it up and they just don't see it. And I think, to be fair to the men, they also evolved to do different things.
For sure.
So naturally as women, we're very aware of how everyone is. We're instinctively wanting to keep everyone happy, have less conflict, be more collaborative. And we're anticipating needs and practically taking care of them. And that worked really well in a big group of women where everyone's reciprocating.
Yeah.
But now you put yourself in the modern world of work, where people aren't going to be reciprocating, taking care of your needs. Or you put yourself in modern relationships where you might not be getting that from your partner. And the danger is that you are anticipating everyone's needs and prioritizing them and fixing every problem that you see, but it's not reciprocated.
Exactly.
And because it's not reciprocated, that's when people start to burn out or resent the other person. And that's when we see women who are stressed and worn out and feel unappreciated. And that's also a lot of the women that we really love helping through the Bad Bitch Reset.
Exactly. And it feels like, especially like the more like you find yourself in that situation and the more sort of like anxious and overwhelmed that you feel, the harder it is to figure out a way forward, because your brain is like, it's quite noisy. It's like, I explain it to my clients, it's like a snow globe. It's like you have a snow globe and you've shaken it up, but actually, and therefore it's very hard to see the scene in the snow globe when all the snow is like swirling around, similarly to like the ideas might swirl and the thoughts in our brain. And so in order to find our way back and to start thinking about how you want to put yourself first, it's important to just let things settle, let like that overwhelm, just even if it won't pass and you're in the trenches and you're having a full-on bad time, that it's just like important to let it settle a bit before you can start charting a way forward to what you want to do and put yourself first. Even if it's tiny rebellions, I like to call them. Well, votes for yourself.
Say a client comes to you and she realises that she's burnt out and she realises that she's over prioritised other people in her life, maybe lost sight of her own goals and her own well-being needs. Yeah. Where do you start with them?
Well, my clients, as I always say to them, I'm like, you are the expert on you. Like, I am just here to sometimes ask the awkward questions that your primitive brain is going to literally be like, get lost, Julia. But it is literally, they are the expert on them. So it's like we figure out, because our brain likes a scale, so we will scale them like 1 to 10, with like 1 being like their most sort of overwhelmed, least prioritized self, and 10 is like perhaps their most like happy and most calm and most in control, and someone that is asking for what there needs to be met in a healthy way. And we'll figure out initially where they are on that scale. Doesn't matter where they are, it's absolutely fine, because there's always something it doesn't matter if they think they're really great, because there's always small improvements we can make. Similarly, it doesn't matter if it's very low, because we can just start to build it. And what we're looking for is like the tiniest little step that perhaps like that, even if you're feeling very overwhelmed, what is a sort of like a manageable change where you can start voting for yourself, where you can start putting yourself first, you know? if it's like you have to go and do the food shopping like every week, maybe there's one week where you order it in and you just like spend some time reading a book. It's the tiny little changes, because we want your brain to be comfortable with the changes. It's literally got to be so easy your brain gets on board with it, because your primitive brain and everything that we're fighting and all like the biology and the being in the tribe and the ingrained habits of putting everyone else first, we've got to just start charting a gentle pathway forward in a small way, and it's just setting like just a small different path.
Well, and to that point, if you suddenly, as a pendulum, if you suddenly swing the other way, you might feel really empowered for about 5 minutes, and then you might start to feel very guilty if it's working against how you've behaved for a long time. So it's about those small steps, and it could be I'd say first step is actually spend some time thinking about what you need, just what you need that makes you feel good. Is it I need some time on my own every day? At work, is it I've got some strategic projects that I want to work on, but everyone keeps interrupting me, so working on those would be good for me. Look at your goals. What would you like to achieve that would be good for you? And then just pick one of those areas and then say, what's the small version of that? So, okay, I need time on my own every day. Maybe I live in a full house and I could one day ask for people to go out and give me some space, but maybe it's just that on my way home, I stop the car somewhere for 10 minutes. And just relax on my own where no one's going to bother me, and I ignore my phone. I just give myself that time, but without putting myself up for criticism or observations from other people. Or it might be at work. I think we're going to do a whole other episode on boundaries, because it's such a key point of this. But it might be at work, somebody comes to you for help, and maybe you're used to being the hero who steps in and helps everyone every time they have a problem. And maybe that first step is someone comes to you and asks you for help, and rather than helping them in that exact moment, you just say, I'll come back to you in 15 minutes. Why are you laughing about that?
I'm laughing because this happened at work, and because I'm leaving my full-time job to obviously do hypnotherapy full-time, and I was thinking about this in terms of like helping people when I'm not there. And one of my very like lovely colleagues said to me, she said, next time someone asks you a question, say to them, what would you do if I wasn't here?
Oh, that's great.
It is. So I premiered this last week, and I felt really proud of myself, and I went, what would you do if I wasn't here? And he turned around and went, I'd call you.
Oh no.
And I was like,
I'm not going to answer your calls.
This is going to take a little bit more work. I'd call you. No, that's not quite what we want you to. We want to encourage like our own thinking.
But this is where I do see it a lot with my clients who are worn out, and this is men as well as women do this. Is the phenomenon of the hero. Of someone who gets in the habit of being the hero, and I know you can be like this in your job, where they know everything and they answer everyone's questions, and because they're so good at that, then they become a magnet for everyone's problems and everyone's queries. And one of the truths of life is that people treat us the way we trained them to treat us. So if you are that hero, you can't be upset that everyone then keeps bringing you their problems. You have to start putting yourself first. And also, you're not helping those people learn. So deferring them and saying, why don't you go away and think about it and come back to me with what you do? It works really well with kids, is say to them, well, come up with 3 ideas of things you could do to solve this problem. And get them to be creative and think about it, rather than just jumping in and solving the problem, which isn't helping them to develop and grow. So I do think if you're someone who's overgiving, check yourself. Have you made yourself the hero because it feels good?
This is the thing, and then your brain will get off on it.
Exactly, and can you gradually back out of that?
Yeah, because there will be, whether your behaviour, there's always rewards to like the behaviours that we're doing, right? Even if they're not like habits that are serving us, behaviours that are serving us, there's always going to be like some kind of payoff and benefit to you, or perceived benefit. So it's always worth just exploring what am I getting from being this way. It's because if you are the hero that steps in, for being self-aware and honest, I'm not saying I'm the hero, no, I'm not saying that at all, but like if you are someone that likes to solve people's problems, you will, it does give you that good feeling of like, I'm important, I'm in the tribe, like I'm integral to the tribe. It draws you into that, I'm really a key part of the tribe, when in reality, if you're not there, people will work, and especially in a workplace, things will continue without you.
Oh, totally. I mean, you can feel so integral, and then you leave a company and 2 weeks later no one even talks about you or knows who you are. So I think that's so true, and that a big part of that is about validation. And that's a part we need to internally validate and externally validate. We actually do need both, but a lot of people are getting their external validation from being the hero. So as you said, be aware of that, because if you then stop doing that without thinking of other ways to be validated, you might have a real downer from that experience. So that's why we always encourage this really gentle approach to being self-first. On a practical level, I think, as you said, one of the first things is work out what you need, take a very small step. I really believe in scheduling self-care, and by that I don't mean just scheduling a facial, although I love going for a treatment. Self-care can just be scheduling some downtime. It can be working out when you're going to go to the gym, or when you're going to order some food. In a work context, it is about prioritizing your work that achieves your goals. But I do think if you're not scheduling these things in, then your diary and schedule gets hijacked by everyone else's needs.
100%.
So work out your needs, prioritize them, put them in there, and then you might think, once I've taken care of my needs, then I'm going to let other people ask for my help, and I'm going to give it.
Yes.
But you've got to book it in there and make it happen.
And even if it's like going back to the tiny steps, it's like a small rebellion at work. Like I see some people have like notifications on when their emails drop in on their laptop, turning them off and having set times where you open your email, because you've got to work on you've got a plan, and sometimes that plan may need to be adapted and changed, but having a plan and not letting people encroach on that and having set times, it's also building your confidence and demonstrating to your brain that you can set these little like rebellions for self-first, the votes for self-first we'll call them. And it's doing things in those small ways and controlling your time, even in a small way. And like you said, putting things in your calendar as well, very good for our brain, because it's like our brain will look at it and it's like it's in the calendar, it's something we have to stick to. Doesn't matter if it's a dental appointment or the kids' play. If self-care is in the diary, our brain doesn't really discern. It will be like, oh, it's in the diary, it kind of needs to be done.
It looks official.
Yeah, exactly.
I should do it. And also, if you've got a shared work calendar, it stops people going into it. The final thing I want to talk about on this self-first approach is being able to say no.
Yes.
Because I think one of the absolute key skills in being able to take a self-first approach is saying no to things and people. And I'll give an example. I love to say yes to almost everything, and I'm very sociable. So I had to prioritise some of my needs around rest and sleep, for example. I had to learn to turn down certain invitations. And I actually found that really hard. Not so much because I thought the other person would be offended, although sometimes it is that you think the other person would be offended, but also because I would just have FOMO.
100%. It's a big thing. It's that being in the we don't want to be excluded from the tribe having fun.
Not. I don't want sounds so this is selfish. I don't want anyone to have fun without me there.
I love it.
No, but I love being a part of it. I get such joy out of being with my friends. I have the most amazing friends, and so I get such joy about being around them. But sometimes that just isn't what you need in that moment, whether you need some sleep or some time alone, or you've got to get some work done because actually the work stacking up is stressing you out. I was talking to a client recently where their work felt like it was getting out of control, and their original approach was they were really fiercely defending their weekends to not work, but actually we realised that if they just on one weekend, without telling any of their colleagues, spent a couple of hours just tidying up their inbox and reviewing everything and getting on top of it, they would feel a lot better.
Yeah.
And actually the self-first thing was actually to do a bit of work on the weekend, but say no to doing some social things.
Yes, because there's no point, like if you've got things that are hanging over your head and they're going to effectively mar a lovely time, you may as well, it's like you're not doing the work, but you're not enjoying yourself either.
Yes.
It's sometimes better that the self-first approach, like you say, is to suck it up and do the thing you don't want to do, that just gives you the freedom to do the things you want to do later on.
I love that. So, but we know that actually saying no can be really hard.
Oh, it is.
So what are your tips for people who really...
The look of horror on my face that I have to share tips.
Do you want me to start?
No. We'll talk about it together.
Because one of the great things you talk about on the Bad Batch Reset is the soft boundaries.
Yes.
Because I actually became quite boundary quite young. I think partly working in financial services on a trading floor in quite a tough environment, it was a survival mechanism, and I'm pleased it happened. so sometimes when we're running the reset, in my head I just think, just tell everyone to F off.
I mean, that would be
just
lovely.
say no.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I don't know that that's always the right approach. And then you do this lovely section on soft boundaries, and I think that's much healthier.
I mean, I feel like when it comes to setting boundaries, especially if it's a new area that you're exploring and your brain's like, I have the FOMO, I don't know what, like, I'm just not sure how I feel about this setting of boundaries. Even if it's like you can't say no in the moment, buy yourself some time to sort of like take that pause. And a really nice thing to say is something like, I'm just finalising my diary, let me get back to you. Just give your, and I would say as well, for your brain, have a pre-rehearsed statement that you can just wheel out. I know that sounds like a bit contrived, but then you find like if you keep saying this to your friends, they'll be like, why is she saying
why are we hearing the same phrase every time?
Why is she like a robot?
Let me consult my diary,
exactly.
Get back to you.
But it's like, it's just having, it's like, it's acknowledgement, but also buying yourself some time. It's like, oh, thank you so much for asking me. I'll check that. I mean, if you want to set, there was a guy who set a hard boundary. He's like, it was literally like, I don't say yes to things on certain nights. So you can,
we can have a schedule about it.
You can have a statement saying, or on such and such I do this, on such and such day I do this thing, or it's as long as I feel like when you're saying these things to other people, you're saying like, I hear you and thank you, but not this time, or I need to just check my diary. Anything that allows you to have that sort of pause or give the other person acknowledgement is a really great way to start playing around with it.
And if you don't want people to start not inviting you to things anymore, you can just say, oh, I can't make this one, but I would love to join the next thing. Or actually, I got invited to something recently, and I was very honest. I said, that's not my thing, but next time you do something different, please invite me. So you can reinforce that. One of the things to be mindful of, though, is if you're suddenly saying no to things to the people closest to us, which is we know where the most challenging relationships are, maybe like family or your partner, then sometimes I think it is worth explaining to them what's happening, so they're not suddenly like, wait, why did you love doing that thing last week and now you don't want to do it anymore? And so saying to someone, I've realised that I need a bit more time to myself, so I'm not going to come to our weekly Wednesday night poker game, for example. But maybe the people close to you, give them a bit of context, and also accept that they might have a reaction. That's okay, they're allowed to have it. But the people who really care about you truly ultimately want you to be healthy and happy. And so they might take a bit of getting used to it, but ultimately, if you say, I need to do this because it helps me recharge, and then I'll be in a better place tomorrow, when I'm spending time with you, or I'll have more energy for the kids, I think it can be worth giving that context. If someone reacts really negatively to you prioritizing yourself, that's also a sign. You should pay attention that might not be someone who really does have your back. I've definitely put boundaries with certain people in my lives where that means I don't do the thing they would necessarily want me to do, but we overall have a better relationship because of it. And over time they've recognized that and they really value the relationship. But I totally understand that can be a little bit uncomfortable at first. So just really take your time with doing this, rather than kind of overnight completely changing everything that you do.
Exactly. And I think just one final thing, if it gives you any reassurance, it's like, if someone, like you say, if there's someone that really prioritizes and wants you the best for you, they will accept that it's the best for you. And also, everyone is going through they're going through the same thing about setting boundaries. A lot of people will be going through the same thing and worried about what other people responses and thoughts are to them, when actually, so everyone's kind of like wrapped up in their own business. So even if they have like an adverse reaction to start off with, or they don't respond in the way that you think or you're expecting, just know that they're very quickly going to move on from that, and they're going to go back to thinking about their own lives and their own drama. So just give yourself like the hall pass to just explore and play around with it in a kind, gentle way for the sake of yourself.
I love that. I think that's a really beautiful point to stop on. We hope we've inspired everyone listening to put themselves first, which, remember, it doesn't mean you can't be there for other people, but you're just prioritizing yourself. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we hope you have a great week and enjoy being a bad bitch.
And see you on the next show.